This week, you're going to be spending the entire week writing a narrative writing piece about absolutely anything you want. So, you're going to be choosing what it's about. Maybe it's a story about you, maybe it's a made up character, maybe it's a story about someone else you know. And then you're going to be spending the entire week making it perfect. So, we talked about narrative writing before and how narrative writing tells a story. At the beginning of our writing, we're going to introduce who the story is about and where the story takes place, just like every story that we read. Then we'll start writing the beginning of our story or our narrative, where we introduce a problem. And again, your narrative is going to be about whatever you want, so the character's problem could be something real or something made up. In the middle, we'll write about the actions and the reactions of the characters in response to the problem. And then in the end, we'll tell how the problem is solved. So we're looking at story structure that we've been studying throughout the year, and we're turning it into a story of our own. I want to look at some narrative writing, a good one and a not so good one, so you can see kind of what you're expected to do. One day, there was a toy shark. He wanted to explore a drain. Okay, so I see that the character was introduced, and so was the setting. When he went down the drain, he was in the sewer system. Just then, a rush of water came behind him. Swoosh, he got swept away. Oh no, he cried, where am I? I shouldn't have come here in the first place. What have I done? So, the character was introduced. The setting was introduced. Now he's in the sewer system, so there's a different setting. Now I see the word system is spelled wrong. Think back to our last narrative writing lesson. Is it okay that this word is spelled wrong? It absolutely is okay that system is spelled wrong because remember, we're just learning how to write. So it's okay for us to make mistakes. You're not expected to have perfect spelling or punctuation. So now the character has a problem. Take a second and identify his problem. He probably said he got swept away. Now it looks like he's lost. He says, where am I? So he's reacting through his words. What have I done? So let's keep reading. I shouldn't have come here in the first place. What have I done? He thought. Just then he saw something green in the distance. What's that? It got closer and closer and closer. He finally figured out what it was. It was a green alligator. He shouted, Hey, can you help me? Nothing happened. He was doing signs. He said, Just stay here. I will just stay here. I like it here. It is nice. So, you can see the shark responded to his problem throughout the story, first through his words. He reacted by shouting at the green alligator. And then in the end, he solved his problem. How did he solve his problem? He says, I will just stay here. I like it here. It's nice. So this narrative followed the story structure that we've been talking about. And in the end, he solved a problem. So let's take a look at this checklist. The writing is realistic or imaginary. Yes, it was definitely imaginary. And like I said, narratives can be real or fake. Writing fully communicates ideas and shows sustained thought. So sustained means it stays on topic. Definitely stayed on topic. Writing shows elements of fiction. It definitely was fiction. there's one character at least, right? One idea connects logically to the next. Yes, this definitely showed the order or the sequence of events perfectly. So you want to think about your sequence of events. Did it show expression and creativity? It definitely did. There was a made-up character, and he went through some things I never would have thought a toy shark would go through. So it was definitely a creative story, and a lot of words that made it even more interesting. Were there descriptive words? There were descriptive words. I saw this word swoosh. That was pretty descriptive. A rush of water. That's descriptive. Remember, descriptive words describe things and they help us visualize more. Does the writing demonstrate or show increasing command of grammar, usage of mechanics? So we're going to think of the capital letters, dialogue. Going back, yes, I definitely saw my punctuation. I saw those capital letters. There were a few spelling mistakes, but like I said, that's okay. We're allowed to make mistakes. There was another spelling mistake here, and it's totally fine because we're still learning how to read and how to write perfectly. So little mistakes like this are okay. For the most part, I could read this with no problem. So this person did a great job with their spelling and grammar and punctuation. Let's take a look at another narrative. One day we went to Chuck E. Cheese. I got lost and then lost in the slide. I bumped my head on the big slide. I even dropped my pizza. When I was walking, I even fell down the stairs. Did this introduce a character? The character wasn't really introduced to us. It did say we went to Chuck E. Cheese, and it talks about I, so I can figure out that the author of this is the character, but the character was not introduced. Does it introduce a setting? Yes. Chuck E. Cheese. What about a problem? Well, it looks like there's quite a few problems, right? They got lost in the slide, bumped their head, dropped their pizza, fell on the stairs. This is basically just a list of problems with no actions and reactions and no solution. So, can we figure out what this is about? Kind of, but there really isn't a storyline to it. So, it's kind of all over the place. It's not really communicating a sustained thought or one thought. It's just listing a bunch of problems. Do the ideas connect? Not really. It's just, like I said, just listing a bunch of problems. Is it creative? Again, all it's doing is listing things. Was there descriptive vocabulary? Not so much. We didn't really describe anything. I don't really know much about Chuck E. Cheese, and if I've never been there, I would have a hard time visualizing what's going on in this story because there weren't description words. Let's talk about the grammar. I don't see any punctuation in this at all, and I see a lot of spelling mistakes. Lost is missing a T. Again, missing a T. We're missing punctuation here. This D is backwards. Bumped is spelled wrong. Head is spelled wrong. So there's really a lot of mistakes, and to be honest, I had to read this quite a few times before I was able to figure out what this person was trying to say. So this is really not the best narrative when it comes to grammar. So we want to think about the difference between this narrative and this narrative. We want our narrative to be more like this first one, where it had all the pieces of story structure. This one was really missing a lot. You're going to be seeing one more example this week. As you're writing your narrative, you're going to be seeing my narrative being built too. So that should really help you as you're introducing your characters, introducing your setting and your problem, and going through the characters' steps to solving the problem. So pay attention to my narrative and think back to these two, the good example and the not so great example, because they're really going to help you see if you're on the right track.